Welcome back to TLDR's daily briefing for Monday the 16th of June 2025. In today's episode, the Israel-Iran conflict continues, an apparent political assassination in Minnesota, the UN's drastic aid cuts, and a new spat in the France-Israeli feud. But first, we take a look at the US's No Kings protests, which reportedly drew more than 1% of the US population on Saturday. Over the weekend, protests against President Donald Trump erupted across the United States, marking the largest mass mobilization against him since his re-election. Demonstrations took place at over 2,100 locations nationwide, from major cities to small towns, drawing millions of participants. Notable gatherings included more than 200,000 people in New York, over 100,000 people in Philadelphia, and tens of thousands in Minnesota and LA, which has been engulfed in protests since last weekend, sparked by opposition to ICE immigration raids in the city and the broader anti-Trump movement. The No Kings protests, organized by a coalition of more than 100 groups, were held to counter a military parade celebrating both the 250th anniversary of the US Army and Trump's 79th birthday. Massive crowds took to the streets to criticize Trump's so-called billionaire politics, asserting that he has overstepped the constitutional limits of his presidential authority. While the majority of the protests remained peaceful, a few violent incidents occurred. In San Francisco, a driver struck at least 4 demonstrators, who reportedly suffered non-life-threatening injuries. In Virginia, a man drove an SUV through a crowd, injuring one protester. In a suburban neighborhood in Georgia, known for its large Hispanic community, police reportedly dispersed protesters using tear gas and smoke. In Salt Lake City, 2 members of a peacekeeping team, armed with handguns, fatally shot a man. Just hours before the main rally in Minnesota, 2 lawmakers at the state capitol were shot. You're listening to TLDR's daily briefing. If you want more explainers on what's happening in the world, then you should check out TLDR's other channels. Today, we released a video on whether South Korea and Japan are turning away from the US. You can find the video linked in the description or show notes for this episode, or by searching for TLDR on YouTube or Nebula. The conflict between Iran and Israel continues into a 4th day today, as the exchanges of missile fire show no signs of abating, despite international calls for de-escalation. Since Israel's first wave of strikes on Iran on Friday, Iranian authorities say that more than 200 people have been killed by Israeli attacks, while the Israeli government says 24 people have been killed in Israel by Iranian strikes. With the ongoing conflict looming over the G7 Leaders Summit in Canada, the big question is, how does it all end? We're releasing a full video that tries to answer this question over on the TLDR Global channel tomorrow morning. Moving back to the US now, the man suspected of fatally shooting a Democratic state lawmaker in Minnesota has been taken into police custody after what authorities say was the largest manhunt in the state's history. 57-year-old Vance Luther Bulter is accused of killing prominent state representative Melissa Hortman and her husband in their home on Saturday morning, while posing as a police officer. Bulter has also been charged with attempted murder for allegedly shooting and injuring another Democratic lawmaker, State Senator John Hoffman, and his wife at their home a few miles away, also on Saturday. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz described the attack as a politically motivated assassination and said, "This cannot be the norm. It cannot be the way that we deal with our political differences." Police did not give a motive in announcing the arrest of Bulter. Law enforcement recovered a list of 70 names from the vehicle left at the scene, which included Hortman and Hoffman's names, among other names of prominent state and federal lawmakers and community leaders, along with abortion rights advocates and information about healthcare facilities. CNN writes that Bulter is an outspoken evangelical Christian and cites a longtime friend of his who described him as a conservative who was strongly against abortion rights. The UN's aid agency said it has been forced to drastically scale back its humanitarian aid plans due to brutal funding cuts. Back in December, the UN's Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs was seeking $44 billion to help in more than 70 countries, but according to the agency, with the year nearly halfway complete, only $5.6 billion has been raised. In a revision of its budget, it is now seeking a smaller total of $29 billion. Western governments provide much of the UN's aid funding, but this year has seen major cuts to international aid announced by US President Donald Trump. Other countries, including the UK, Germany, Canada, and France, have also cut their international aid budgets. UN aid chief Tom Fletcher said that the global donor retrenchment meant the organization had been forced into a triage of human survival, and that the math is cruel and the consequences are heartbreaking. And finally, French-Israeli relations have taken another hit after France shut 4 Israeli stands at the Paris Air Show for displaying offensive weapons. The show is one of the world's largest aerospace and defense fairs, and last week a French court dismissed a demand by NGOs to ban Israeli companies from the show. However, according to Politico, French authorities told their Israeli counterparts that no offensive weapons could be showcased. With 5 of 9 Israeli companies at the show failing to comply, the show's organizers concealed their booths with black panels, following a request by the French government. The Israeli Foreign Ministry called the move outrageous, effectively accusing France of trying to protect its own companies from Israeli competition, saying the move reeked of policy-driven and commercial considerations. Today, the first day of the show, French aerospace company Airbus bagged a $3.5 billion order from Saudi firm Avilis, with reports that Airbus had also won an order from Polish airline LOT. That's all for today. We'll be back with you tomorrow, so make sure you're subscribed wherever you listen. In the meantime, if you want to keep up on all the TLDR content we've released across our channels, then consider subscribing to our new weekly newsletter published every Friday. You can do so by clicking the link in the description. This was a TLDR news production hosted by Georgina Finley, written by Nadja Lovadinov and Rory and produced by Scarlett Watchorn. Thanks for listening, and we'll be back again tomorrow.